Welcome to Career Launch Live. I am your host, Katherine McCord, and I am super stoked about today's episode because we have had this issue coming up a lot lately in my company. And if you don't know me and who I am your host, Katherine McCord, as I said in the intro, and I run Titan Management, which is a recruiting and consulting firm. I also have Titan ATS, which is a bias eliminating applicant tracking system. And I am very happy to welcome my co-host today. It's been a while since I've had one of those. I have the one, the only Miss Andi Cook. How are you today?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Going crazy, very slowly.
You have a lot of really amazing things going on right now.
Thank you. It's been interesting lately. And I have so much travel. I don't have a single month without at least 2 conventions for the rest of the year.
I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yay, COVID being over.
It's so exciting. So exciting. We're seeing really amazing things in the network. We're hearing many staffing companies who are declaring that they have more job orders than what they can fulfill. The market for recruiters right now is insane. And so, yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome. It's a great time.
I love it.
And it's a great time for both of us. So tell us a little bit about you and what you have going on and all the awesome things that you do.
Absolutely. So I am the founder and CEO of Maximize Your Job Search. So for those who don't know me, I'm Andi Cook, also known as the Crown Straightener. That's my favorite title. And I just love it. And it just kind of became a thing when my aunt, and not everybody knows this story, but my aunt who passed away in December of COVID, then thank you so much. We were building a presentation for her services. And I came across a picture of her wearing a tiara, watching the royal wedding. I was like, this should be a thing. Like we should all do this. So, And one of my favorite memes is be the kind of woman who straightens other people's crowns and never tells anybody that it was crooked. That's like my favorite. And so
I love that.
I was like, I want to be that woman. So it just kind of became this thing of the Crown Straightener that stuck. And I absolutely love it. But I am a job search strategy coach. I help people kind of navigate this hiring process. And now I'm excited about this kind of branch out that I'm doing of going into colleges and universities and high schools and teaching people from the ground up how to build a strategic career path instead of being 20 years into their career going, holy crap, what do I do now?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, by the way, that you're doing that. And I'm kind of in an educational phase myself, but on the other end, right? Right. So I'm trying to teach HR and recruiters, hey guys, do it like this.
Yes,
please.
Right.
And then you're fixing the other side. So I think together,
absolutely,
we're going to make this work and make it a whole lot better. So today's topic, this is one you and I have gotten into some pretty excitable discussions about before.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about toxic workplace.
Right.
And what to do with people that cause them.
So here's kind of my mic drop moment of this show. When you have an employee who behaves inappropriately and you do nothing about it, you have put your stamp of approval on that behavior.
100%. I love it. That is absolutely the mic drop of the episode. Yeah. And to further that point, we have a very special guest. I'm excited to have her back because she was on every single episode for the first year of the show. And then because she has now graduated and moved on to actually, working in her own field, she's not been able to be with us. So I want to recognize the newly graduated Masters of Counseling / Psychology as her minor, Miss Michaela McCord.
I love this so much.
Hi.
Hey, Michaela, congratulations on your graduation.
Thank you. It feels really weird. It's great. It's great. It also feels really weird.
Yeah, I want to say a new definition of you.
I'm still kind of mad that they didn't let Maslow walk with you.
Don't get me started. I'm going to write some letters, some strongly worded letters with me. For those of you who don't know, Maslow's my dog, the dog I use in my work.
Yes, in her work. I want to say that, like, he's relevant to her graduation. And like they've been on the news together. They've been like, she's been to conferences because of her work with Maslow. So it's pretty cool. And I think it's nonsense that he didn't also get a little cap and gown. I just want to throw that out there.
Well,
but
a little bit graduation pictures of Maslow. I need you to understand that that's coming soon to
you. He deserves them. Yes, he does. So I want to further what Andi just said. So Andi, I want you to repeat it one more time for anyone who missed it. And then I want Michaela to respond to that.
Let me try to look at the camera. I have a new camera, so I'm kind of getting used to it. So when you have an employee who misbehaves or behaves inappropriately and you do nothing about it, you have put your stamp of approval on that behavior.
Mm-hmm. Then that's where the job comes in as the leader. To step up and do something about it. Because if the leader, you're absolutely right. And that's actually something I was going to brush on. So when you said that earlier, I was 100% engaged. And I heard you say that. And I was like, I'm going to touch on that. Because leaders who put their stamp of approval on behaviors like that are, like you said, condoning it for the rest of the organization. Right. And just this is something that's acceptable here. And
so tell us the psychology behind that, Michaela. Tell us, I mean, that's kind of your area of expertise, right? Is understanding.
Yes, I do. I do know psychology. Yes.
That's your study. That's your studies. Yes. So
you have the paper for it.
Yeah, you have the paper now. You're the expert. Don't discredit yourself.
It was delivered today, actually. I can go hold it up later.
There you go. But as somebody who has studied this and how the mind works, how does that affect other people in the workplace? How, in other words, so people hear, oh, it sends this message. And people go, well, why? Why, what is that? So what actually happens with people?
The first thing that struck me about it is that when you enter a new workplace, and I'm saying this as you, but just I think people in general, and correct me if I'm wrong in this experience, because it's certainly been mine. I know it's been other people, and from what I study, anyway, I'll digress. But when you enter a place of work, there's a culture to what you're entering. And you may even go in with a very fresh mindset of, okay, this is a new chapter of my life. This is somewhere I am starting, and it's a blank slate. We call that tabula rasa. And so yeah, blank slate. And then when you start adding in things like what y'all are talking about, this toxicity, that starts to become, you're starting to start right now on that blank slate, that this is acceptable here. This is what we can do. And so you're taking someone who you could have helped shape into a very down-to-earth, hardworking employee who helps other people potentially, to now someone who is creating perpetuating this toxic environment. At least that's what I would see with it.
Absolutely. And I want to throw out some examples here, very specific examples of what we mean by toxic people and toxic behavior. So if someone is being either directly or indirectly discriminatory towards anyone else, whether it's, I want to be real clear on this, okay? If you make a joke about a group of people, that's toxic, even if it's not to them, okay? So the person does not need to say it directly to them. If you talk about, guys, this one's at you, because I see it more with guys, although I've seen it with the ladies out there too. If you talk about someone's body, even if it's not to them, that's toxic. Don't do that.
You are not a personal trainer or a physician.
Oh yeah. Let me clarify that. Yeah.
People's body parts at work.
Yeah. If you're like a nurse and you're talking about your patient, okay, fine.
No, not even then. Don't talk about the body.
Right. Like those are
Don't talk about their attractiveness, at least.
Right, exactly. If you have to put an adjective with a body part, it's inappropriate. Like you can just go ahead and and label
no adjectives. And the same thing for race, preference, anything else. Just anything. Just don't do it. Yeah. Don't do it. Also, if you're just a jerk, you are if you are going around yelling at people, okay, I'm gonna throw this on out there. There is not ever a reason to yell at somebody at work. It does not exist. Now I can understand if you're just excited talking about something, your voice might kind of elevate, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about yelling at them. So, there is never a reason to put somebody down.
I agree. And I want to piggyback on what you're saying here about raising our voices at work. So I come from a behavior background, so I'm bonding with Michaela here. But in the schools, we are taught to raise our voice to grab attention and bring it back down very quickly. So only in a crisis situation. So if somebody is heading towards an exit to the building. So elementary school. So they're running. I might raise my voice to call their name or yell the word stop. And then I'm going to bring it back down because this is crisis management and you have to use it very strategically. Very rarely are you going to encounter a situation like this in the workplace. So it goes back into, if you are the manager, then what are you doing? So we go into compliance, right? Sometimes people raise their voice to try to bring somebody into compliance. We've got to work on the strategy here because we're looking for leadership, not dictatorship.
No, that's someone who's out of control. That's
exactly.
Yes.
Right. No. I completely agree with you.
I love, my husband says, and I'll pass it off to you, Michaela. My husband always tells this story to illustrate why you never need to yell to show off your strength. Of when he was in boot camp in the Navy, his, I don't know what you call it, but the guy who took care of it, like who was over them and all, I don't know what they're called. Sorry, this is not a good look for me. But anyway, the guy that, did all their drills with them and everything, he would come in the morning. And I want you to picture this, a room full of dozens upon dozens of men who got maybe 3 hours sleep after exercising for 21 hours straight. And he would go, wake up. That quiet. And everybody would shoot up and run. So you do not need to yell to get your point across. Just sort of put that out there. So Michaela, what were you going to say?
I'm actually glad you threw that in there. That's a good point. The thing that was on my mind is, we're talking about toxicity, and it's sort of occurring to me right now, what are we really saying when we say toxicity? If you think about something that's toxic, what are you really saying? I think the first thing in my mind is poisonous. I think about like a big vat of just, this is such a dorky reference, but that movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, don't talk about that scene. I used to cry over that scene.
Horrible. But anyway, when it spills over and it's like acidic and nasty, that's what I think about. Just something that's poisonous, that seeps into other things. And that's what we're really talking about when you talk about these employees and how it just carries over to everything. That's really what you're talking about. Like, you touch, like, the toxicity touches one person and it's just sort of like a chain reaction. And honestly, I don't think we're giving enough attention to the leadership in this conversation yet.
It's true.
Honestly, I have seen leaders make or break toxic environments. And Andi, I know you sort of you did brush on that earlier, and I just want to sort of bring the conversation back around to that, because that was honestly something that I hadn't even considered the employees yet, because I really put that in the hands of the leaders largely.
Right.
And I know of a lot of my friends right now work for this big company. I don't want to say the name of the company because it's a very popular one.
No.
And the site here is it's sort of seen an upturn in leadership, and the employees are leaving left and right because it is toxic. It's become a hugely toxic environment. So anyway, I just want to sort of throw that out there and get y'all's perspectives on that.
It's true. I had actually a client that, and again, not going to give names, obviously, and they had a COO that was horrible. I mean, just from start to finish, did everything toxic that we've mentioned here today. It was awful, from direct sexual harassment to indirect racial comments to being nasty and ugly to people, berating them in front of others, yelling, all of these things.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call, and it was, what do we do? What do we do? And I said, well, fire him. Why are you even asking me this? And the person who called was not the owner of the company, and said, I can't. I'm not allowed. And I was like, oh no. I said, well, then get ready, because you're about to get sued. That's how this is going to go. Like, and by the way, guys,
piggyback on that.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was thinking about that as Michaela was talking into what you're saying. Why do companies allow toxicity, right? And it goes back a lot of times to, what do you value most? A lot of times the people who are allowed to misbehave are high performers. They may have the most experience. They may be senior leaders. And there's this mindset that I can't do we can't succeed without you. So we actually put performance above culture or performance above integrity. So other toxic environments can be lack of integrity or dishonesty or backstabbing, and we allow bad behavior.
Yes, that's totally true. And I want to say real quick about that. So people always go, well, you know, I'm sorry, but my money comes first. This is a business. Well, let me help you out with that. Even if you don't understand how important it is to always have ethics and integrity, I'm not going to sit here. This show would be 48 hours long if I tried to explain to you everything wrong with that and reteach you that. But what I am going to teach you as business owner to business owner is why that's still stupid. And it's still not going to help your bottom line. And I'm going to use the word stupid because it needs to be used here. You are going to get sued into oblivion. Okay. You are going to lose your business, which I have watched happen to said client, by the way, and not even the first time I've seen that happen. I have also seen time and time again, and keep in mind, I consult, work with a lot of businesses. Andi, you've done the same. Other things happen too. Your clients start to figure stuff out. Word gets out around the industry about you. Everything starts to tank. No person is worth that. You can always replace a top performer. Trust me. Call Andi. She's got plenty of them in her database.
Well,
Call
and
me.
if you're a strong enough leader, build them.
Yes, and that too. Train. That's a whole other. We just had a whole episode about OJT. Go back and watch that one. Train your people up. But seriously, there is not a single person worth that. Not one. I will fire, and Michaela will testify to this. I will fire family. Not that I ever had to fire her, but I will. There is no.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
Did not have to fire her. She did not do anything stupid or toxic, but I will. And I have fired best friends. No, don't go there. Don't think that just because we have a relationship, you can mess with my business. That's not
your ethics are more, your ethics and integrity are where they should be as a leader.
Well, thank you. That's not where I was going with that.
It's really, I've just seen more and more, and I'm so disheartened by the amount of leaders out there who just don't seem to get the ethics and the integrity. I don't, especially for this, like this big name company. I'm just like, how do you not care? And talking to my friends about this, and one of them said to me something very profound. They're like, it just makes business sense to not have a toxic environment. So why, in the name of God, are you having an environment that's toxic and you're allowing it to stay toxic? I'll get off my soapbox.
So let me throw this out there, okay, Katherine, because you mentioned that you're very comfortable having these difficult conversations. And I think part of the reason toxic environments exist is because even good people who want to see change may not know how to have these tough conversations.
That's true.
And influence change. So what advice can we as a panel give them, particularly you you're more comfortable with these conversations, to say, how could that conversation sound?
Okay. So I have two routes that I use. I'm just going to throw out what I do, and then Andi, I want to hear yours, and then Michaela, I want to hear your perspective on something very specific. So for me, it goes one of two ways. Okay. So first of all, everyone watching should know that one of my nicknames is the Terminator, just like my mother. It got handed down, and the person who gave it to me doesn't even know my mother. It's funny. And I am not afraid to fire people, like, at all. Just not afraid. One of my approaches is to walk in and say, what do you think you're doing? And just call them out. The reason is that you want them to understand how upset you are. And just sit down. You say it calmly. Don't yell at them. You sit down and you say, what do you think you're doing? And when they try to play dumb, because they will, you say, don't do that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And then you repeat to them what they did. And then you tell them why it's unacceptable and how that's going to hurt the business and how that's going to hurt their career and how that hurts the other people there. And then look at them and say, so now with all of that understood, I'm going to repeat my question. What do you think you're doing? And just wait. Because then what they're going to tell you is, do you need to fire them or can they be coached? If you see humility after that, you go, all right, so here's the thing. We're going to have an action plan. Here's what we're going to do to fix it. I'm all about working with you. Let's keep it going. I value you. build them back up. You tore them down. Now build them back up and then keep going and follow up with that action plan. I'm going to throw that out there. The other approach, or the other thing is they're going to tell you that you need to fire them, in which case you walk them out. That's it. It's that simple. The other approach, and sometimes you have to use this one, sometimes the first one's not an option, is you have to do the very soft investigation. You have to approach them, see what's going on. This is typically my preferred approach, unless it was just really egregious, because I like to find out why the person's behaving this way, because to me that matters. Maybe something happened to you. Maybe something's going on with you and there's some trauma. Like, is this common that this person acts like this? Is it new? Is it, find out what's going on. They might be going, I've told the story on the show before of one of my assistant managers one time all of a sudden just started yelling at our staff. Had never done that before. And I mean, just rude. And I called him and I said, what's going on, man? How are you? Are things okay? Breaks down crying. His wife tried to kill herself.
Oh God.
And here he is at work trying to get through it. And I wish I sent him home, but you never know. And I typically like to start with that approach and just say, what's going on? Explain to me why this is happening. Michaela, what are your thoughts on the two approaches?
That you're an engaged leader, especially with that second one, that you know how to monitor your employees and respond to them. That was a reach. That in that second example, that you saw how that person was responding. Wait a second. I'm not just going to react, because I'm sure you had your own emotional reactions to that of like, whoa, man, I'm sort of angry that you're acting like this. But you, as a leader, held that reaction and then approached your employee with professionalism and concern and said, okay, I've collected myself. Now let me ask and see. So that's what really stuck out to me.
So you feel that would be one that would bond your employee more to you?
Oh yeah.
Is to just really reach out and see what's up.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Not that the first one was, I'm not saying anything about the first one that was like incorrect or anything at all, but just the second one struck me. I was like, oh yeah.
You usually, like I said, you usually want to go with the second one. The first one is more like somebody did something real egregious.
Like really crappy.
Really bad. Like just real bad. Like, you know better than this. Come on.
Yeah, the Terminator has that one under control. What about you,
Andi, what about you? What is your advice on that to start this conversation?
I would tell you, the hardest conversations for me to have are ones with underperforming employees, right?
Yeah, that's hard.
And so, because nobody wants to hurt their feelings. And I go back to, I was coaching a job seeker, and they said something that will stay with me forever. He had moved to the US from France, and I was asking him, what's the biggest difference in managing employees here in the US? And he said, well, in France, if you're doing a bad job, I tell you you're doing a bad job and you apologize. Here, I have to apologize to you because you're doing a bad job. And I thought that was the best. I was like, I feel your pain here. And so I just thought that was the best explanation, because
that's hilarious.
We do have this culture of trying to make everybody feel great and be your authentic self. And if your authentic self is rude, I need you to not be your authentic self. I need you to work on yourself.
Like, I'm real rough.
Yes.
Yeah, like Michaela will tell you, I am mean as hell in real life. I really am. I am not sweet.
I will not tell you that.
I'm not sweet though. Nobody would ever in their right mind call me sweet. But when you're a manager, you have to be different. To your point, Andi, you do. But you also have to play to your strengths. So let's say you're a manager and owner and you are just not okay with confrontation.
Right.
Okay. First of all, don't be a manager. If you're afraid of confrontation, don't do that. Be a lead, be a trainer. You can even be a business owner. That's okay. But if you're an executive or a manager and you're afraid of confrontation, you're in the wrong job. But hand it off to HR. These are people who are trained to deal with this. It's their whole job.
Right.
That is their whole job. Hand it off to HR. Go. And
I would say if you are in a leadership role and you don't want to just quit because you identify that you're not great at conflict, get a coach. Start working with a counselor. Start working with someone to identify what is it that's making you so afraid of conflict, to address this person that is underperforming or causing a culture shift in your organization. So I would say when we're talking about firing jerks, it's anybody who their behavior is transforming your organizational or departmental culture. So if they're doing something that is so extreme that is negatively influencing the entire department or organization, you owe it to them and the rest of your employees to have that conversation.
Yes.
And Dave Ramsey and Craig Rochelle on the Leadership Podcast were talking about honesty is kindness when it comes to employee management. And that when you have those conversations, like letting somebody go and just underperform is not kind. And that for me was like my wake up call of going, okay, holding their hand and always trying to figure out, okay, what could I have done? I internalize it. Okay, could I have trained them better? Could I have done this? And so instead of taking ownership of that, having those honest, fearless feedback conversations is kind. And even though it's uncomfortable, it's kind.
That's right. Well, and just be respectful.
And the employee's reaction, well, really any person in life, whether you were honest to, their reaction is on them. Their reaction has a lot more to do with them than it does with you. And again, Andy, you talked about our culture earlier, and in our culture, that's not what we tend to respond with, right? We're like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to give you some bad news. I have to be honest with you. I'm so sorry, I have to be honest with you. But and I'm very much like that. I'm sitting here being silly, you guys, but please understand, I am so much like that.
It's true.
I'm like, there's this meme, like, if you ever need help with something, it's like, oh, could you please help me with this? If not, you can run me over with your car. That's fine too.
It's fine.
It's okay. I'll just be a pancake on the road. Don't worry about me.
Exactly. Or just starfish.
Sorry.
But yeah, no, but no, that's in all honesty, and I digress again, but it's it's all you can do is be honest as a leader, and your employee's going to do what they're going to do. But your integrity and your ethics as a leader is to be honest and watch out for your company's culture.
Right.
100%. And one of the things that just slays me is when somebody thinks that there is any, like we were saying earlier, thinks that there's anything above that, anything at all. There is nothing above your ethics and integrity. Nothing at all. And believe me, I'm going to put this on out there, I fired my biggest client. I lost over $100,000 a year in my personal pocket. That means after I paid the expenses, employees and all that, to get rid of someone that did not line up with my ethics and integrity. So and you know what? My business rebuilt and I'm fine. I'm fine. Right. You're going to be okay. I'm telling that to not say yay, maybe to tell you it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You will be okay. Good karma or God or whatever you believe in will look out for you. Your network will look out for you. But when it comes to that jerk, and I'm going to talk real quick about these people out there that are the overt jerks, the overt ones that just say nasty stuff, do nasty stuff. Fire them and fire them publicly is my advice. I literally one time walked out onto a floor, heard a very nasty racial comment said from one employee to another, turned around, and it was right after I walked past, turned around, looked at the person who said it and said, "Get your stuff and get out." Right there in front of everybody. Didn't pause because there was no interpretation. There was no reason to investigate. Right. It was so egregious and so nasty what was said. You got to go. And you know what everybody else learned? You know what happened? I had 2 different employees come tell me thank you because the last manager let that slide.
When you encounter something that is that
bad,
unsettling and concerning, and this is where, going back to the monetary exchange, I would say, what is your integrity for sale for, right? And you weren't willing to sell your integrity for $500,000.
But a lot of people do.
A lot of people do.
Unfortunately. A lot of people do. And shame on them. You should not, it's like being a parent, right? It's not just you anymore. It's everybody under you that you have to take care of. And if you're a parent, it's your children. If you have pets, it's your pets. And yes, animal lives matter. They're awesome. And
it's your employees.
Yeah. And if you're a leader, it's your employees and you have to look out for them, period. you have to look out for them. And if something is hurting them, if something is causing a problem, gots to go.
Right.
Gots to go. So Michaela, thank you so very much for joining us.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you
Pleasure. Thank you for being back on again. We've missed you.
I know.
And
It
we'll
was
see
fun,
you
you
soon.
guys. I missed it too. Bye.
See you later.